All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to China's Children International's Adoptee Only Guest Speaker Chat featuring Amanda Sparso, Chinese adoptee and director of the animated short Yuanfen. My name is Charlotte Cotter, and I'm one of the current co-presidents here at China's Children International.
And I'm Lainey Allison. I am the other co-founder and co-president of China's Children International.
China's Children International is one of the first support and networking organizations created by and for Chinese adoptees. As part of CCI's Adoptee Only Chats, we have initiated a guest speaker series to invite influential figures in the adoptee community to speak about their inspiring work. Each month, we host a live-streamed video chat over Google Hangouts and YouTube with a reserved amount of spots for our members to listen to our speakers' stories and engage directly in productive dialogue. We then share the video with our community afterwards. In this way, we hope to inspire further leadership and promote effective, productive dialogue within the international adoption community. And this month, we are extremely honored to welcome the absolutely amazing Amanda Sparso, director of the animated short Yuanfen.
So Amanda Sparso is a CG artist working in the film and animation industry in New York City. She's best known for directing the CGI short film Yuanfen. As an adoptee from Guangzhou, China, Amanda's film tells a personal tale of adoption as seen through the eyes of a child. Prior to beginning her career as a CG artist, Amanda heavily focused her training on ballet, piano, singing, and musical theater. She was given the opportunity to train pre-professionally with the American Ballet Theater and Gelsey Kirkland Academy, and later went on to earn a coveted internship at the Disney's college program. Amanda currently graduated from the School of Visual Arts with a BFA in computer animation. To view her work, visit amandasparso.com.
And hi, everyone. My name is Emily Finley. I'm also on the board of CCI, and I'm currently the e-magazine and newsletter coordinator. But we're here mainly to discuss her animated film, Yuanfen, and a young orphan is guided on a journey through China to be united with her parents-to-be. Yuanfen is a CG animated short film directed by Amanda Sparso and produced at the School of Visual Arts. In hopes of shedding a positive light on adoption and raising more awareness for the issue, the film tells a heartwarming tale of adoption as seen through the eyes of a child. If you haven't seen it yet, please see the link below in the description, and it is truly a wonderful film and such a meaningful one for the Chinese adoptee community.
Perfect. So the way that it's going to work tonight is that CCI, we're going to start off with some questions, and then we'll take some questions from members as they come in as well. And Amanda, of course, if there's anything that you'd like to talk about or add, feel free to guide the conversation in the way that you please. I guess I can start off, unless, Amanda, did you have anything that you wanted to add to your introduction or anything you left out?
I think you guys covered it all. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, I guess I'll start with one, and then maybe we can move on to you guys. So when I first saw this film being circulated and discussed in our community, I was really excited and really surprised that somebody had made an animated film about Chinese adoptees. And then I was really even more excited when I learned that you, the director, Chinese adoptee yourself, and you were born in Guangzhou, is that right?
Yes.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut.
Super. And if you don't mind, could you talk a little bit about your own personal journey and coming to terms with your Chinese adoptee identity? Sort of how have you felt about it over the years, and has it changed as you've gotten older?
Sure. So I don't really remember like a specific time where I learned that I was adopted. It was just something that I've always known since I was little, from reading books and just like toys that I had as a kid. It was something that my mom and I always talked about growing up. She always told me that my parents made a huge risk by bringing me to the police station so that I could be found and brought to an orphanage, and that I was really fortunate to be here and have the second chance at life now. So I always kind of looked at it in a positive light and wanted to take every opportunity that I could while I was here and make the best of it and make them proud that they gave me this chance to be here. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. My second question is that I saw that you came to lighting, compositing, and look development career from a career in performing arts. And I think the bio had talked about how you were training with the American Ballet Theater, among others. And I was wondering whether you could talk a little bit about how your career in performing arts has informed your decision and your work with CG.
Yeah, of course. So before I started college, ballet was just a huge part of my life and performing, and it was something that I thought that I wanted to pursue for a really long time. So I did those intensives over the summer, but then when it came time to like choose colleges, I decided I wanted to earn a degree and go that route. But having earned the degree now, I realized that all of those elements that I learned from dance did help me in tie-in, just things like the work ethic, the dedication. Dancers are such perfectionists, and I feel like that definitely carries into the art that I make. And also it's animation, so having that background in moving and being able to see like what looks good and what looks bad is really helpful when I'm watching animators work, because I might not make the characters move specifically, but I can at least tell like if it's good or bad.
That's great. So next question we have is, on your resume it says you're a CGI lighter and compositor. You can also model, texture, and shade. Can you talk a little bit about that? I'm not familiar with CG at all, aside from just watching films. So can you tell us what that entails?
So I feel like everyone who watches animation thinks you just go on the computer and like a character will be pre-made and just show up and you move it around and it's super simple, but that's actually not what happens. There's about like 7 or 8 different stages in the pipeline. So we'll start with modeling, which is going in and actually like kind of like sculpting and building out 3D prototypes of what a set or what a character would be in real life. And then someone will take those models and they'll go into texturing and shading. So they add color to it, and then like what the surface is. So if it's like wood or metallic, plastic, they'll give it that kind of look. And then someone will animate it, make it move, give it all the expressions. Before they can do that though, they put like a skeleton joint in them. So that gives it the capabilities to move. And then when you get towards the end of the pipeline, my favorite part of it is lighting and compositing, because I feel like color brings a huge part into what you're looking at, of course, and I feel like it brings the scene to life in that aspect. So I'll go in and add all the lights, give it the values, shadows, highlights, and then in the very end, I'll just kind of like finesse it a little bit, and that's where compositing comes in. So making everything look the way you want it before you edit out the final version.
That's so interesting and so intricate. And I mean, of course, the finished product is incredibly beautiful, like what you've done. So I can only imagine the process and how long it might have taken to go through.
It was months.
Yeah. How did you get interested in CG, since you had a background in performing arts, to CG as a visual art choice instead of maybe like painting or sculpting?
I was actually really, really hesitant about it at first, because as a dancer, you're constantly moving around, whereas when you're working with computers, you're sitting behind a desk all day. So I knew that I didn't want to go the performance route anymore, because I wanted more stability, whereas performing, I'd be traveling a lot and I wouldn't really know what show or what like gig I was going to next. So taking my love for performing is when I started finding animation and realizing that I could actually take everything that I know about performing and bringing a character to life and then incorporating that to CG. So yeah, I guess all of that. And also just growing up watching Pixar and Disney movies, I always loved them. So when I found out that there was actually degrees to learn how to do it, I was like, that's what I want to do. I went to SVA and I saw my chair gave an amazing presentation, and that just kind of sealed it for me. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go there. Okay.
That's so awesome. That's a great story.
Thank you.
So what advice would you give to people interested in going that type of career route, aspiring artists whether it be maybe performing or visual artists, CG artists, and so forth?
I think a few pieces. So one, in the arts industry, you have to be 100% dedicated. And especially with computer animation and ballet, both of them, I dedicated my time 100%. Like, even if that meant giving up social life, having to stay up late, cramming homework, whenever, it's really full dedication to what you want to do because it's competitive. And if you don't want to do it and put in the work, there's going to be someone right behind you who will want to do that. But as far as making the decision to pursue computer animation, I think my biggest piece of advice is don't be scared if you don't know anything, because I started at SVA and I didn't even know Photoshop. And I was a little bit intimidated because a lot of my peers had studied art in high school. Like, that's what they were dedicated to. And they're like, oh, we took coding classes or we did these kinds of workshops. And I was like, well, I don't really know any of that. So you're definitely capable of learning it if you put in the time to do so.
That's great advice. Charlotte, I think you're next.
I think we're going to have some questions from Emily, actually.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'll pop in here really quick. So I'm really excited to meet you and talk to you. And I saw that you did study at SVA, and being in the graphic design world, we always really admire like SVA as a school in general. And I know it's such like a well-known art school. Like in graphic design, I know that Jessica Walsh is like an instructor there. I don't know if you know her, but are there any instructors in your field, CG, that inspire you at SVA?
One of my thesis advisors, Eric Kuna, he just knows everything in the world. So I felt like I could go to him and learn so much from him. And even now, as I'm starting to work in the industry, he's definitely someone that I aspire to be.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you also said that you worked at Disney or did an internship at Disney. How did that impact your field in CG? And are you like wanting to pursue maybe a job after graduation at Disney?
I did. So my path to Disney was a little bit different. I started at SVA and I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. And after my first semester, I had a little bit of hesitations, like I said, because the whole sitting behind the desk and not moving and not performing. But I knew that in the future, I definitely wanted to be affiliated with Disney somehow, like have a career with them, whether it was in animation or in the theme park side or in the performing side. So I applied and I was super fortunate to have been chosen to get in. And I did a semester down there, and it kind of gave me the opportunity to get all the performing out of my system, because I was singing in Epcot's Candlelight Choir and I was on stage and I got to meet so many people and learn from like some of the most amazing singers down there. So I did that, and then afterwards I was like, I still really want to do art. Like, if I'm down here, I might not get to do that. So I'm going to go back, and I just made it my goal to finish the degree and make a film at the end of it. And it just pushed me through all 4 years.
That's great. Yeah, and it's such a beautiful film. I was showing my mom the film as well, and we were both like tearing up because it's so meaningful for both of us. But I bet being at Disney was really impactful too, even if you weren't technically on like the CG route, more of a performance route. Because I feel like Disney is so inspirational with just like just all of their content and all of their films. But I was also wondering how animation design is different than graphic design in terms of the ideation process. I was looking at your Tumblr in terms of your process and everything, and I thought it was really cool. But I feel like there's two really different sides where you're doing more of like the lighting and things that you were talking about, whereas graphic is more of like kind of creating like a visual hierarchy and language.
Absolutely. So I think I'm not a graphic design major, so I could be wrong, but I feel like graphic design is more about like the advertising look, like catching someone's eye if they're going to see like a poster or something on the subway, walking down the street. Whereas animation, it's more like building these mini sets and these characters and telling a story that moves.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Charlotte, if you have any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I was hoping we could move our questioning, and viewers, if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat in the upper right-hand corner for Amanda, and we'd be happy to bring those up. But one of them that I had about the amazing film Yuanfen is that I loved the title, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what this Chinese word Yuanfen means to you and how you came up with the title for your piece.
Yeah, so this was a really long process for me because obviously titles are very important. It's kind of summarizing your whole presentation in 1-2 words. So when I started thinking of titles, I knew I really wanted to do something that incorporated like this idea of going on a journey and also the idea of like finding a home and a place that you're gonna stay forever. So I was kind of like playing around with those words and what I could make out of them, and it wasn't really sticking with me. So I started Googling what they meant in Chinese and then looking to see if there is any words that I liked that sounded well. And I came across Yuanfen. And then I read that the definition means that it's a relationship by fate or destiny that occurs regardless of time, place, circumstances that happen. And I felt like that was especially true for me as an adoptee because, I came from 7,000 miles away after being left on police steps without a family or a home or anything. And like now I'm here in New York making art and it's awesome. So I felt like choosing that title would hopefully give a positive message of hope to other adoptees that like you're fortunate to be here.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I always think of the word Yuanfen as so applicable to my adoptee journey and identity as well. And I'm also wondering, I guess you sort of were talking about it a little bit in the title, but more generally, how did you bring your own adoptee identity and your own adoptee journey to bear on the creation of this film? And did it kind of work itself into how you're inspired to create the different elements?
So in high school, my favorite thing to draw is pandas, and Asian art also influenced my style as an artist. So I just started like sketching all these little things of like a panda and like this little girl together and then going on fun adventures. And then just a few people who had seen them would be like, oh, that's a great idea for a story. Like it seems so original and there's not much about adoption out there. So when it came time to make a film, I knew that if I was going to make a film about adoption, I wanted to focus more on sending a positive message about it because there's so many different aspects that you can't really convey everyone's story in one film. So I was like, well, I'm going to put a positive one out there for anyone who might happen to see it to at least give them like hope or motivation or whatever. So then I started just fleshing out the ideas and it came together.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Sorry, my microphone was muted. No, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I have a couple more questions, but if any of you guys want to jump in, just like raise your hand. I just came up with a lot of them because I've been sort of looking at your Tumblr, and your site is really cool too. And we'll link all of her official site and the Tumblr site for her movie down in the description. So definitely, if you haven't watched her film yet, go check it out. It's amazing. One thing that I was wondering is, I saw on the Tumblr the sort of rough chart of the timing and emotional map on the official site, and I thought that was so interesting that you were kind of sketching out the emotions that the audience would feel throughout the film. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about these sort of different stages of creative processes that went into Yuanfen.
Yeah, so story was one of the most important elements for me, and I was on a really tight timeline as far as like going through the pipeline, and I definitely feel like I did take more time to do the story because I wanted to hit all of the emotions and not miss anything out. So that's when I started mapping them out because the pipeline is so technical that you can only fit so much in like 3 minutes. So I was like, well, how am I going to go from like this to this to this and make it all make sense so that the viewers can follow it? Because like, what if they get really confused? So I just started doing the emotion chart that had all of the rough storyboards in it, so I could time like, okay, is like the arc going like this so that it like follows the story. And it definitely helped in the end, at least with fleshing all of my ideas out.
Awesome. The other thing that I noticed while I was on the Tumblr website was the live performance of, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, but Gina Luciani's playing the deeds which is a traditional Chinese flute, as part of the original score. It looks like written for the film by composer Jerome Leroy. And it's such a stirring piece. And I just wanted to talk a little bit, if you don't mind talking a little bit about the process of creating the score and how you were involved in that.
Yeah, Jerome was absolutely amazing to work with. I had heard his scores just from like going through his website, and so many of them stuck with me, and I was like, that's what I want in my piece. And the music was so important to me that I knew when it came to picking a composer, it's like it really has to be all or nothing. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm making this film about adoption. Like, can you please write the music for it? And he responded and said he'd be so excited to. And I was like, OMG, yay. And then the whole process working with him was so great because just being in communication with him was really easy, making changes here and there. And he actually came to New York to show the first draft of it to me. And it was really funny because I was so nervous. And I think he could tell that, like, he sits down and he pulls it up and he's like, are you okay? It's gonna be okay, don't worry. So I'm like sitting there like, okay, I'm ready. And I heard it for the first time. And that's when I really felt like the whole thing was coming together. And I was so excited and actually a little bit of pressure because I loved it so much that it's like now I have to make sure that my art and my animation matches up to the level of his score because I don't want to disappoint him.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. And I think the results were very, very, very fabulous. We have a question from one of our watchers, which is, if you don't mind answering, if it's okay if it's too personal, but if you don't mind, have you thought of meeting your birth parents before?
Of course I've thought about it, but I don't think it's something that I would pursue. I haven't done like DNA tests or anything like that because I'm just so focused on being here and making the most of everything that I have here. And I have a really loving and supportive family that like they are my family, so I never really went to go look.
Sure, that's fair enough. And yeah, there are so many different opinions. Having worked with the Chinese adoptee community, it really runs the range, and they're all really valid. So thanks for sharing that. And yeah, one other question that I had about the process for you is how you enjoyed the role of director, because I know that's a little bit different from what you've done in prior works, if you've done like lead look development for characters or sort of shading outside cityscape shots. But I think the director has to do like a little bit of a different role. And I was wondering what you thought of your first time in that directorial role.
I love directing. I definitely learned a lot from it. Throughout the whole 10 months, I was managing a team of 30 artists. So it was a lot of back and forth that way and a lot of scheduling and organization that I had to stay on top of. But I definitely liked having that like leadership position and being able to like give feedback to other people and hopefully help them, because I remember being an undergrad and helping on the seniors films, and like it's a really good opportunity for them to learn something. So if I was going to bring them onto my team, I wanted to make sure that I could also be like a mentor to them and teach them something new. And I was really lucky because my main thesis teacher, he had a great eye as a director, and he always worked really closely with me in my film, and he would teach me things like, I'm having trouble like organizing this part of the pipeline, and he would tell me like as a director what he would do. So I felt like I got to grow a lot there.
Perfect. That was all of my questions. Did you guys have any other questions that you wanted to ask? Oh, Emily.
Oh, I have another question to ask you. So I know you did mention that you did ballet before and now you're doing like a desk job. I was wondering how you balance the two, because I feel like sitting at a desk all day. I used to do gymnastics and I just feel like now it's making me feel so like closed in. Do you do like ballet still on the side, or how do you kind of cope with that?
During school, I was going to the gym when I could. Certain parts of the semester would of course get really busy, but when I wasn't, I always like to stay active somehow, because when you're a dancer you build up so many different muscles in your body, and I didn't want to lose all of them, so I'd go work out or go for walks. But now that I've graduated, I definitely do want to start taking open classes around the city again when I have free time. But also I'm just so I feel like dance, I threw myself into that 100% now. With this industry, I'm throwing myself into that 100%, and it definitely occupies my brain and my time. So, yeah.
Awesome.
I have a question. Oh, Charlotte?
Oh, go for it, Ming.
Oh, okay. So one of my questions would be, how have you felt regarding any of the feedback you've received from the general public that has, seen your clip, and just kind of like the process of when you first publicized it to now that it's been shared a lot by various people, like what has been your general feeling or, I guess, experience with the feedback people have given you?
So I was actually terrified to release my film at first. I think everyone graduated and they were like, here's all our films, and they released it right away, and I waited until almost the end of summer to release mine because I felt like I wanted to be confident in what I had made and kind of like come to terms with it before I sent it out in the world for everyone else to see and have opinions on it. I was most surprised by how much it meant to the adoption community. I think CCI shared my post and I just got so much feedback, and ever since then I've been getting emails and private messages sent to me about people just like sharing really personal things with me about like their adoption stories, or like they adopted a daughter from here and I'm gonna show it to them when they're older and stuff like that. And it meant so much to me because, I really made this film for children who are learning about adoption to be able to have like a positive impact on them. So knowing that it is reaching them just meant so much.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions that we have? Or Amanda, if you think there's something that we haven't addressed about your film that you'd like to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, I think we're generally at the end of our time. So before we wrap up, so we would like to thank you so much for joining us in our chat with Amanda Sparso. If you'd like to learn more about Amanda's work, please click the link on the video or down below in the description. We've also linked to Amanda's website down in this description. And of course, we'd like to give a very special thank you to Amanda Sparso for so kindly agreeing to join us today. And on behalf of the Chinese adoptee community, we'd like to recognize and appreciate the amazing work that you've created. It means so much to all of us to have an animated short film that speaks to many of our experiences as Chinese adoptees and helps generate visibility among the general public, especially in such a visually gorgeous medium. So thank you so much, and we're really happy for your success. Again, this has been a guest speaker chat held by China's Children International, one of the first international support and networking organizations created by and for Chinese adoptees. The link to our site will also be in the description, so be sure to check us out. And thank you so much for tuning in to this month's guest speaker chat, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.